From 12 News, this is Newsmakers.
Welcome to Newsmakers. I'm Ted Nesi. Tim White is off this week. Well, the General Assembly has wrapped up its regular session earlier this month, but they may come back for a special session this fall. Later on in the program, we're going to have a reporter roundtable to break down what lawmakers have done so far and what they might do if they come back. But first, on Wednesday, 12 News anchor Kim Kalunian talked one-on-one with House Speaker Joe Shekarchi about the prospects for a special session, marijuana legalization, and more. Here's their conversation.
In today's Community Focus, it is summer break for Rhode Island lawmakers, but will they be back before the new year to tackle some major topics like marijuana and police reform? Today, we're joined in studio by House Speaker Joe Shekarchi. House Speaker, we appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Kim. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
So it was a busy year for the legislature, as it always is, but there were some big issues that were left on the table before you took summer recess, including reforming the Law Enforcement Officers' Bill of Rights, or LEABOR as it's commonly known, and also legalizing recreational marijuana. So are you planning to tackle both of these issues in a special session this fall?
Possibly. I plan on tackling them over the summer, and if we can reach a consensus with the Senate and the governor's office on marijuana, we'll certainly come back in the fall to address that issue. And it's the same thing with LIBOR. We were very close. We worked very hard on it. We just couldn't get it done in the last 2 weeks of session, but we did get some really good police reforms, and body cams. We're going to be the only state that's funded body cameras for every city and town in the state that wants body cameras. There'll be funding for them. So we've tackled a lot of big issues, and police reform being one of them. And LIBOR is also a very important issue, and we're going to work very hard to try to get that done. Hopefully we can get it done this summer, and if we can, we will come back in the fall. But if we can't get it done, then it'll wait until January.
And just so people understand, when you say get it done this summer, this means sort of behind closed doors, negotiating, sitting down with folks to decide how to move forward on these issues?
Yeah, I don't like the word closed doors, but yeah, it'll be with the stakeholders, and we will meet with the police union, the sponsors, the advocates, the governor's office, the police chiefs, the state police, the attorney general, everybody who's got the stakeholders, as I call it, everybody who has a strong interest in it, and see if we can forge a consensus. We were close. I will say we were close last time, but we just couldn't get it done. We ran out of time. It was a busy year. We got a lot accomplished, not only the budget, but significant pieces of legislation done regarding housing, regarding education. So we just ran out of time, and body cameras was a big issue that we got done as well.
So when do you think you'll make the decision if a fall session is going to happen?
It would really depend on the course of the negotiations that go on with the LIBOR and marijuana. I don't see it happening before Labor Day. I mean, if at all, there is no air conditioning in the State House. So realistically, we're talking if we had a full session, it would probably be late September, early October. And it would be a short session, abbreviated, just to come in to address the issues that there is consensus around. And if there's no consensus, we'll continue to work through them through the fall. We're not stopping just because it's a break. We're going to take some days off. Obviously, we all had a very grueling session with COVID, remote voting, remote sessions back at the State House. But we got a lot accomplished. It was an extremely productive session. I'm proud of it.
In addition to LEABOR and recreational marijuana, is there another big issue that you think might come up in that fall session?
Well, obviously, Zambarano Hospital is always a big issue. We're waiting for the governor's plan on that for vetting. We're also going to look at whatever issues that come up. When we started the session, no one knew that the Sherlock funding for the Sherlock Center would be an issue, which is a disability learning center at Rhode Island College. But we were able to address that issue. So we're available, and if something should come up, the need should arise, we're going to play our constitutional obligated role in whatever that issue may be.
Last question on legalizing recreational marijuana. Do you think Rhode Island will have legalized it before the end of 2021?
I don't know if it'll be the end of 21, but I think it's inevitable, and I think it's soon. And I'm not in any hurry to legalize marijuana for the sake of legalizing it. I want to do it right. It doesn't matter to me if we're the last state in the union to legalize it or we never legalize it, but I need to do it right. I need to make sure that we do this right for the taxpayers of Rhode Island and for the medical community, the business community. This needs to be done properly, and I'm not going to be rushed into it because other states are moving fast. I want to learn from other states, look at the mistakes they've made, look at what's worked in other states, states, collaborate with them, and work to put out a good product. And that's how we've addressed very big issues. If you look at this session, whether it's IGT or nursing home staffing, those were significant issues that have been around the General Assembly for 2 or 3 years that were negotiated. Very difficult, very hard. We put a lot of hours in. I personally put a tremendous amount of hours in both things, and I think the final product is a very good product in both cases. And I want to follow that same path, whether it's LIBOR or marijuana as well.
Governor Dan McGowan signed the state budget and a slew of other bills both yesterday and today, but he also issued his first veto of his term on a bill that's related to utilities. He says it would pass along a burden to ratepayers, but now some are calling for the legislature to override that veto. Will you override McGowan's veto on that bill?
I don't know yet. That's something I will certainly talk to the Senate President. You know, for one house or one chamber to do it without the other doesn't make sense. I haven't seen the governor's veto message, so I don't know his formal reasons for the veto. We'll look at that. I will tell you that we had hearings in March, and there was no opposition from the Public Utilities Commission at all. It was only after the bill got voted out of committee, it was on the House floor, that I received an email from the PUC, but nobody from the Public Utilities Commission testified either in person or in writing or showed up or voiced any concern about the bill. So we're going to look at the veto message. I'll talk to my counterpart in the Senate and see what they want to do. But it's certainly a possibility. I wouldn't use the word probability, but I would say the word possibility.
And Speaker, just before we let you go, we know you're a big animal lover, and we understand there's a charity event coming up that you are hosting.
I am hosting a charity event. Thank you for the Warwick Animal Shelter and Stars Animal Rescue on August 2nd, and it's going to be at the Quonset Country Club. And I looked for you, as also a big animal lover, to attend, and anyone else who wants to support a great cause. So thank you for that, Kim.
House Speaker Joseph Shekarchi, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
And to talk more about what we just heard, I'm joined by some of the greats of Rhode Island political journalism. Along with me here is my colleague, oh, well, she's off camera right now, but my colleague Steph Machado from 12 News. And there you see on your screen Dan McGowan, Rhode Island columnist for the Boston Globe, and Ian Donnis, political reporter for the Public's Radio. Welcome, everybody. And we're still in our distance studio, but we're working on that, folks, because we're trying to get back to normal, but it takes time. Steph, I'm going to start with you on this because I want to talk about what we just heard about marijuana. That's an issue you cover closely. Early this year, we all kind of thought this train had left the station, just a matter of how they structured the bill. Now it has slowed down a bit, and it's not even certain if they'll come back, first of all, and if they do come back, whether they'll do marijuana. Where do you see that right now?
Yeah, and there's such a contrast between the sense of urgency from Senate leaders and the lack of urgency we just heard from Speaker Shekarchi, who says, I don't care if we're the last state in the union to do this. So, look, we've come a long way from discussing whether or not marijuana should be legal in Rhode Island. There's at least 3 viable proposals right now as to how to legalize marijuana. The Senate already passed their bill. The House has their own version. A lot of the discussion right now is about who should regulate it and oversee it. Also, who should be able to grow it, when they should be able to grow it, and how much they should be able to grow. These are some of the debates happening right now. So it's a lot less about, you know, how much to tax it is sort of settled, whether or not to legalize it is sort of settled, whether it should be a state-run program was nixed by pretty much everyone involved. But we're seeing the Senate leadership saying we really need to get this done. Connecticut has legalized, Massachusetts legalized years ago, but not as much urgency from Speaker Shekarchi and Governor McGowan. So I think, as he said, they'll work on it over the summer, but I don't think that the Speaker is going to be upset if they don't land somewhere by the fall. The Senate leaders feel differently.
Ian, you've tracked this issue for a lot of years, and I heard from a lot of people who were frustrated by Shekarchi's comments to Kim about how, you know, why don't they just do it? Other states are already doing it. Rhode Island's losing its momentum on this, and that's fair enough. But it also is, if you step back, quite a sudden change in some ways for social policy, how far the State House has gone on this issue.
Absolutely, Ted. We've seen some big moves away from the so-called war on drugs, with the legislature signing off on and Governor McGowan signing legislation to approve supervised drug injection centers. That's something you think of more about Amsterdam than Rhode Island. When you hear about that concept, it's still very controversial, although supporters will say it saves lives. In terms of the marijuana issue, I think the Speaker's comments are very typical of his leadership. leadership style. He often stakes out the middle ground. He avoids making commitments. I personally will be surprised if marijuana legalization does not move ahead this year. Next year is an election year, obviously. Lawmakers don't like taking on controversial issues in election years. As Steph said, Connecticut and Massachusetts have already legalized recreational marijuana, so there's the tax revenue issue. And it's not going to be a silver bullet as far as injecting huge amounts of money into Rhode Island's budget, but it would provide some tax money.
Dan, it is interesting, though, because I think of the comparison to sports betting, where they raced so fast to put that in place and make sure the revenue was up and running from that as soon as the Supreme Court said they could do it. Whereas in this case, it's been legal for a little while now in Massachusetts. Connecticut moved on it this year. And you don't hear that sense that we need to do this now from all the legislative leaders, at least, or the governor.
Well, I think Ian's right that Speaker Shekarchi, this is sort of his MO, right? He wants to kind of be slow on things. He wants to make sure he has the votes in the room, which he almost certainly does have the votes, in the House, but he almost wants to kind of take it slowly, make sure you think it out, which makes a lot of sense. You're right. I go back just a couple of years ago when you think about sports betting, Rhode Island celebrated being first to get it done. One thing to remember there, Senate President Ruggiero always wanted sports gambling to be legalized in Rhode Island. I mean, he wanted us to be basically Las Vegas, 15 years ago. Even in the Senate, I think, while they did pass a marijuana bill, I'm not sure Dominic Ruggiero, this is the most important thing to him in many ways. Similarly, I think that's Joe Shekarchi. And then you've got a governor who, is starting to think about how can I make friends with everybody? How can I be nice? He certainly seems to be willing to support it, but it's not a surprise to me that they want to kind of take their time a bit.
I think there's still people who hear about this issue, Steph, and think of it in sort of the old reefer madness kind of way of thinking about marijuana. But there is now big money in the marijuana industry. We're seeing it grow in Massachusetts. I mean, and it does seem like it's when, not if, marijuana is legalized in Rhode Island. How fast do you think from the people you talk to there's going to be a flood of investment into building that industry up?
Well, this is a huge part of the discussion, right? Because there's so many big corporations that are investing in Rhode Island's medical dispensaries that we have now, and there's some folks that want to prevent that from happening when we go into the recreational market. So that's why some of the discussion and some of the legislation includes worker co-ops and including social equity money so that lower income folks can get into the business and have small stores so that it's not just this massive investment. But there's no question a lot of money is going to be coming into Rhode Island as soon as this is legalized. And folks need that investment capital to start up their stores. Ian,
I want to touch back on what you were mentioning about the drug injection bill. You did a really interesting story on that this week, and it's something that other places have done, but it has had a slow start. And as you point out, it's not something a couple years ago I would have predicted Rhode Island lawmakers would be at the forefront on. How is this actually going to work, these safe injection sites?
Yeah, it's a fascinating issue, and this largely flew under the radar screen until the very end of the legislative session. Now that it's a law, the state health director will work with the Department of Health and an advisory panel to create regulations by next March. According to lawmakers, there are plans for 1 or 2 of these supervised drug injection centers to be established after that. Mayor Elorza in Providence has indicated a willingness to host one, possibly one other in the northern or southern part of the state. State Rep Anastasia Williams made an interesting point, saying that it would be more appropriate to put one of these injection centers in a predominantly white community like Portsmouth or East Greenwich, because obviously we know with the opioid issue, this affects all races, all ethnicities, and she was making the point that drug addiction is not strictly an urban issue. But the eyes will be on Rhode Island. This is a 2-year pilot program. I asked Attorney General Pierre Nerona where he stands on this. He's taking a standoff approach, hands-off approach until the pilot program runs its course. And it's worth noting that a federal appeals court in Pennsylvania blocked a proposal for a municipal drug injection center in Philadelphia. Supporters here think the local appellate court is very different. And of course, there's now a Democrat in the White House, so I think we are seeing very much a liberalization of federal drug policy. see.
That's going to be fascinating to watch develop in the next minutes. All right, we got to take a break, but when we come back, we're going to talk more about some of the surprises from this session and a look ahead to the fast escalating race for Rhode Island governor in 2022. Stick with us on Newsmakers. Welcome back to Newsmakers. I'm Ted Nesi, filling in this week for Tim White. We're talking right now, we're having a reporters roundtable to talk about the end of the legislative session and what's coming up, as well as what's happening in Rhode Island politics more broadly. I'm joined by my 12 News colleague, Steph Machado, who covers Providence City Hall, politics, and more for us, as well as two giants of journalism in Rhode Island, my old colleague, who's now a columnist for the Boston Globe, Dan McGowan, and Ian Donnis of the Public's Radio, political reporter there, and the much beloved Providence Phoenix years ago. I saw people talking about it on Twitter the other day, Ian. So I want to talk a little about other surprises and things that came out of the session. And I'll say one for me was it wound up being fairly placid. And I had gotten used to, in recent years, these collapses at the end about things like chicken coops. Some bill you did not think was going to be a big discussion would make things fall apart on the last night. They were like wrapping up at 10 o'clock. I got to bed at a normal hour the night they finished. And I thought that kind of spoke to a different leadership style with Joe Shekarchi and with Dominic Ruggiero this year and how they worked together. Because, of course, this was the first session since Nick Mattiello lost, as well as you had a new governor, too. Ian, I'm curious, as someone who's watched this a long time, what you thought.
Yeah, you're so right, Ted. I mean, I think we're conditioned by what has happened over the last 5-10 years. I mean, 4 years ago, there was this war that broke out between the House and Senate at the end of session. And you're exactly right. Speaker Shekarchi has a very different leadership style from his predecessor, Nick Mattiello. The barometric pressure in the House is totally different. Representatives are a lot more relaxed, are a lot more happy. Female lawmakers seem like they've been liberated. Speaker Shekarchi is someone who knows he's in charge without feeling the need to show that he's in charge, whereas Speaker Mattiello was a lot more demonstrative, a lot more stormy in his personality. Some female lawmakers really felt very alienated by him, so that's a big change. And across the metaphorical divide in the Senate, we've seen the leadership there back some more liberal measures, although they did not put the hammer down on raising taxes on upper income Rhode Islanders, but they have a growing progressive caucus, and I think that's causing some agita for the Senate leadership looking ahead. I hear Dominic Ruggiero is raising money very aggressively, raising the question of whether at 72 years old he's going to seek another term in the Senate.
Yeah, Dan, it's funny because I know some people joke that when you look at the Senate president, he's now Green New Donnie because he's swung so far to the left in terms of the legislation he's supporting that he's allowing through in the Senate. I mean, you referenced earlier about the contrast with him on marijuana versus sports betting. I remember when we were all saying marijuana wouldn't pass because Donnie Ruggiero opposed it. He sounded he didn't want to do it at all, and now the Senate passed it before the House.
Well, there's no question. I mean, his chamber moved to the left in the last election and it seems to be trending in that direction anyway, right? He is going to have his own tough battle for re-election next year. I mean, I think what Ian was just bringing up about the speaker on the House side is so important, right? It's just a much more calm room right now. You know, it helps. I mean, we all remember when you get a transition to a new speaker, doesn't matter if it was Nick Mattiello or way long ago Gordon Fox, the first year, the first 2 years can go a bit smooth. You're right, they want to please everybody. And then remember, the other factor here that is, of course, what was real was there wasn't a budget crunch, right?
Yeah.
When you have money to spend, you can make everybody happy, you can get out of there. And I think everybody, reporters included, were exhausted through COVID, right? So there wasn't as much tension. I think people wanted to get out of there. I think reporters wanted to get out of there. I think lawmakers wanted to get out of there.
Steph?
One of the things that did collapse, though, at the end of the session was reforming the law enforcement officers' Bill of Rights, which has been a huge topic of debate.
And I was surprised by that. There was so much push behind it.
I think we all were. Even days before the end of the session, we were still being told we're going to get that bill done. And then it collapsed, and it had to do with disagreements between leadership and the actual sponsors of the bill who were disagreeing on language. But that's a bill that a lot of people want that's a law, I should say, that a lot of people want to change. Some people want to repeal it altogether. This is a law that protects police officers when they're under investigation, and so that's something we're going to watch very closely for the fall, because that was one of the big things that did not make it at the end.
And sticking with you, Steph, as Ian pointed out, you did see, I think, women brought more to the center of policymaking, particularly in the House, and we had heard frustrations in recent years from some of the more senior women there that they weren't being brought into policymaking as much. And one example of that is pay equity, and you've pointed this out, that was a bill over and over the sponsors thought they might be able to get there and they couldn't, and it did pass this year. Yeah,
and that's another example of what the change in Speaker had an effect on, because the Senate had passed pay equity for men and women, all genders, I should say, multiple years in a row, but Speaker Mattiello had changed the bill multiple times and had not, been able to reach a compromise. He was very concerned about businesses and how it would affect them. Speaker Shekarchi helped broker that compromise, allowing businesses to have several years to comply was one of the big sticking points there, and they were able to pass a bill that requires pay equity for people in Rhode Island, without consideration of gender and ethnicity and race, which was a huge debate.
I want to talk a little about charter schools, something you, Dan, have covered a lot, and I know you've been covering it as well, Steph. And we had this fight that I did not realize was coming this week over Achievement First. One of the charter schools is looking to expand. One thing that people don't always realize, these charter schools, because they're not traditional public schools, they need buildings, and they have to go find buildings because they don't just have one the way a traditional school does. First of all, just recap a little what happened here, and you were looking behind the scenes. What caused all this damage?
Sure. So we were all expecting, I think, in the last couple of weeks of the session, some sort of charter school blow up in the legislative session. We weren't expecting this issue. And the gist of this is, in very basic terms, is you nailed it. Achievement First is expanding in Providence, one of the highest performing schools in general in the state of Rhode Island. They needed space. And they were looking at, you need not just space, you need space that kids can be in, right? Schools is what you need. And this had been behind the scenes, something that Achievement First and I think the City of Providence, the Department of Education, were really looking at. They have space in this building, the Forts Elementary School. And so they kind of had a deal worked out to make this work. The problem was Governor McKee is looking at this and saying, wait a minute, it's polarizing, it's going to make the Providence Teachers Union. He even, at his press conference this week, he flat out said this could distract from the teachers' contract negotiations. So it really caused a brouhaha, and it allowed Mayor Elorza, which I'm sure we'll talk about, to kind of come out swinging and say, no, I stand by this school. We need to have more schools like this in Providence.
Yeah, Ian, it was hard not to read a little pre-2022 without there is a substantive issue here, but there's also some shadow boxing going on, I think, ahead of next year.
Right, you are, Ted. The subtext, of course, is that Mayor Elorza is expected to be among the Democratic gubernatorial field next year. Governor McKee is the incumbent. Nellie Gorbea has already announced. General Treasurer Steph Machado is expected to be a candidate as well. And we don't know who else might get in. There's Luis Daniel Munoz as well. On the Republican side, it's kind of a mystery who will represent the GOP. But I think the conventional wisdom is that Governor McKee is in a very good position right now as the incumbent. The state budget picture hasn't been this good in a long time, thanks to the federal stimulus and the improvement of the economy. Of course, there are uncertainties with the Delta variant, and we don't know what could happen between now and September 2022 when the primary happens, but we'll see a lot more skirmishing, as Dan described, between Governor McKee and his potential rivals.
Yeah, I tend to agree. If you're one of the campaigns right now, you'd rather be the McKee campaign, probably from the starting point in summer 2021. Go back to Providence, Steph. I felt like your beat was very busy this week.
It was
we talked about Achievement First just now. This blow up about the city clerk, which got a lot more interest than frankly I expected when you gave me the story to edit. What is going on there on the city council?
Yeah, so the Providence City Clerk is just an incredibly important person. The city clerk in any town or city is sort of like the heartbeat of the city, because they're in charge of the documents and running the meetings and sort of are the keeper of much of the sort of pomp and circumstance as well. And the Providence City Clerk, Sean Selleck, was placed on leave by Human Resources pending the results of an investigation a couple of weeks ago. HR will not say what the investigation is because it's a personnel matter, But a lot of people were very surprised by this. Selleck is a council...
Including Selleck.
Including Selleck, who told me that he was shocked. He says he has not been told the reason for his being placed on leave. It was very sudden. He says he's been ordered not to enter City Hall or to speak with city council members who elected him in 2019 for a 4-year term. And so this is something that sort of everyone's talking about in City Hall right now, and we'll be watching very closely.
Dan, it's hard to imagine that politics could be happening behind the scenes in City Hall, but maybe it's finally happened. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, the funny thing is that particularly on the city council level in Providence, many cities, but Providence is a special case. There's absolutely politics. You know, one of the things about city clerks that you have to understand, city clerks, town clerks, like Steph was saying, you know, the old Seinfeld joke, when you control the mail, you control information. The clerk literally controls information in any building, in any city hall. And so when you have the ability to, hey, don't put that on the docket today, don't do this, it means votes don't happen, things like that. And they want to be able to do that with this clerk.
20 seconds, Dan. You've covered Mayor Lorza his entire term. I feel like he's a new man lately, unleashed on every issue he touches.
He is all over. I mean, it's a completely new Mayor Lorza. It's actually, I think, a very effective Mayor Lorza, and I think he's going to make everybody very uncomfortable that wants to run for governor, because he can come out and say whatever he wants, while everybody else is trying to figure out where they stand on everything.
Well, this is why they say Rhode Island politics is Disney World for reporters, right? So thank you, Dan McGowan from the Boston Globe, Ian Donnis from the Publix Radio, my colleague Steph Machado for joining me for this roundtable. Tim White will be back next week when we'll be talking with Senate President Dominic Ruggiero and Senate Majority Leader Michael McCaffrey about the prospects for that special session. If you missed this episode or any other episode, it's on WPRI.com, and check out our podcast on iTunes. See you next week on Newsmakers.